Good morning, Chair and board members. Being that there are no members of the public wishing to provide public comment, we may proceed. It concludes our public comments portion. We may proceed with the regular calendars. We'll start with a motion to adopt the minutes of the March 30th meeting.
Move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We may now proceed with the chair's report.
Great. May I just have the clicker? There's a clicker.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for being with us this morning. Lots to get through, so I'm going to keep my report relatively brief, but I think one of the major items that I wanted the board to be aware of, and I know we shared some information, and it has been very well received, is the release of our sustainability plan. As you'll recall, as part of Next Generation NYCHA, we talked about our commitment to the mayor's goal of reducing our carbon footprint 80 by 50. But when that plan came out, the Housing Authority meeting, we're just releasing our plan. It was sort of unclear how and what were the mechanisms by which we were going to do that. Pleased to say we brought on Bo Jung, who's the vice president of our sustainability program, and over the course of the last year, with staff and residents in the broader sort of industry, has developed, I think, a very thoughtful plan that was released last Thursday, on Earth Day, fittingly enough, that really put forth a plan and path for how we will meet the broader sustainability goals. And more importantly, what are the changes that we are going to adopt and adapt to be a more sustainable organization. So a couple of just sort of highlights and goals for 2025. And again, this is very consistent with our strategic plan, Next Generation NYCHA, which is really zeroing in and focusing on the root causes of issues like mold, by fixing things like roofs, facades, pipes, and other modernization systems. This is about ensuring comfort in our units. It's about ensuring consistent heat and hot water, and preventing planned outages. You know, one of the things that we started last summer actually was because we had the winter of 2015 had been such a difficult winter. Was one of the questions we asked staff was, do we have a sense or a map of where our most challenged sets of infrastructure are throughout our portfolio? Do we have a sense of repeated outages, where that happens, what's the nature of those outages? And so our heating and plant staff, along with the sustainability team, began to really deep dive into the data and map some of where those issues were, and then begin what we call sort of a summer overhaul, which was completed last summer, to really try and target the most challenged areas throughout the portfolio to ensure consistent heat and hot water. We saw. That doesn't mean that there were no unplanned outages this past heating season, but it meant that we were actually able to reduce them. And so through this plan, there are a whole series of additional efforts to ensure the reduction of those types of unplanned outages. There's a huge piece of work, not only through our Sandy program, but through our energy performance contract that we have with HUD. I think we currently have 3 EPCs underway and are talking to them about additional opportunities to leverage private capital in the Housing Authority on those interventions that help reduce our energy usage and improve the performance of our buildings. And then there's a major piece of work to be done, and the GM and team are working on this, is how do we incorporate sustainability into daily management and practices. So everything from the types of cleaning fluids that we use in our buildings to the disposal processes, et cetera. So this document is online, and there is a really, I think, thoughtful piece in the Wall Street Journal about our goals that we put forward, and I think it was really interesting question that one of the reporters asked me. Said, how do you reconcile, quote his words, this rather thoughtful piece of work with NYCHA's daily challenges? I sort of paused for a moment and I said, well, it's precisely because of those daily challenges that we need to have a thoughtful sustainability agenda to help reduce the challenges that our residents are facing just in the daily business of our portfolio. So happy to talk more about this, answer questions, but you'll be hearing a lot more about this throughout the year and over the course of the next several years, given the major investments that we have made around this strategy. So happy to answer any questions or move on to the rest of the agenda. Okay, great, thank you. I'm gonna turn it over to the general manager.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board. I want to share with you now some of the key performance indicators for the month of March 2016 under the headings of financial, work orders, vacancies, and customer satisfaction. On the rent collection, as I shared with the board a couple meetings ago, we are now reporting on a regular basis two types of rent collection reporting. One, which is our more traditional type, which is the bar graph on the left, which talks about the total amount of money that we collect over the total amount of money that we charge. And that, again, we find that there's good progress in that regard. We're almost at 82% of on the collection rate in that indicator. And HUD looks at a different way of measuring rent. It's the tenant accounts receivable formula, which talks about all the money that we did not collect over the money that we billed. And so this indicator is inverse. We are looking to have this number go down, and we want the first box to go up. Again, it shows that there has been progress in both these indicators.
Can I ask you a question? Why don't the two of these together equal 100%?
Well, the TARS actually reflects. The rent collection performance reflects all the money that's ever been owed. It's the beginning balance on top of what the monthly and the collections are.
So it's not just for that month. It's that cumulative with whatever in the past.
And that's one of the challenges in talking with Karen and with Brian and others as we look at our stats, is that we want to make sure that our property managers feel good about their rent collection efforts. However, they often, under the first heading, the rent collection performance, they actually bring with them the past baggage or the past due. Mm-hmm. So they can actually be at 100% collection and still not collect everything in this particular indicator. So as we looked at our stats and our different ways of promoting good property management performance, we actually break that out also a little bit. So this, again, that's kind of it's a little technical in terms of when you really get the deep dive on both these boxes, but it's not a clear, X equaling X in terms of percentages. Okay. On the work order overview, again, since October of 2015, it shows that we're about the 140,000 open work order backlog. In the past 12 months, we created 2.7 million work orders, about 230,000 per month, 53,000 a week, and 7,000 a day. One of the things, well, we'll get this in a second in terms of what this suggests is that of the 6,000 or 7,000 work orders that we get on a daily basis, we're dealing with those pretty much. It's a push. As we're getting them in, we're dealing with them. It gets nuanced. It gets more nuanced because we're, as I'll show very shortly, we're actually addressing the maintenance work orders much faster than we're addressing the skilled trade work orders. So that's one of the reasons that's also creating the leveling off process. On the emergency work orders, we have a 24-hour target. I think what this particular March has shown is that the 15.9 suggests that it really has a direct relationship with heating season in terms of our work order and our response to the maintenance. And we're starting to actually track the percentage of work orders that are completed within a 24-hour period, where 83% of the work orders are done within the 24-hour period. Of the 32,000 that are created, 19,000 are closed. And so that's again, it just shows the commitment we have to responding to this both HUD and board policy requirement of 24-hour response. On the maintenance work orders, it continues to trend downward. We look at this as really sort of beginning the successes of our real-time repair and empowering the maintenance workers to respond to maintenance work that we recognize during the inspection process. That's also, I think, starting to show that the relationship of providing materials on hand and better supervision is also producing these lower work order maintenance service levels. The other direction is the skilled trades. One of the things, and again, this is I think I share with you on a regular basis, our efforts to look at deeper dives and the planning and the logistics around skilled trades. It's very complicated, as you might imagine, with various trades required to complete a specific project. Sometimes you need 2 or 3 different skilled trades to do a specific project, and it gets more nuanced in terms of the scheduling and the planning. But the note that's here that notes that 105,000 skilled trade work orders were compared to 94,000 in March 2015. So we've actually increased the number of work orders in a year by about 11% for skilled trades. We closed 83,000 work orders compared to 78,000 a year ago. So we're actually an increase of 6%. So we're actually closing out work orders, but we're creating more work orders. A total of 117,000 work orders were open at the end of March 16 compared to 83,000 at the previous year. So we actually have more skilled trade work orders open right now. We are doing more work orders, but more work orders are required. I think that's a product of our commitment to our inspection process. We're going through every unit now in a very serious way, and we're actually creating more work orders. This is something that is that we still have a lot of work to do, but I think it's important to note that we are doing, while we are looking at re-engineering our approach to skilled trade responses, we are doing more work than we did a year ago.
I have a question. The skilled trade work orders are generated then by the authority,
Yes.
not the tenant?
Oh, the tenant would call in, but we would actually go through, and our inspections would note, and I use a tub surround as an example. Even though the tenant would say, I need a new tub surround, there's several trades that would be required to fix that particular job. And at that point, those jobs, that gets identified and scheduled. On apartment turnaround count.
Can we go back to the skilled trades for a minute? Because I'm just thinking about what I wrote was time management. How do we look at a job and determine an approximate how much time it will take to complete that job? Because my experience is that sometimes they're wasting time. You know, it's like Time Warner. They tell you what time they're coming, how much time it's going to take to do the job, and when they're finished.
Well,
So starting time, finishing time, and how much it takes to complete a job, so that we don't have this wasted time. Time is money.
For a long time here, great question. For a long time here, we would actually do a work order, and then the sequencing would be a totally different. It wouldn't be in the context of a single job. It would be just whatever the next thing was, and whenever that was done, they would create another work order, and that would take whenever that was done. And it wasn't looking at the entire job and the sequencing of that job. One of the things we did this last fall was to take a look at what we call the One Job Initiative to really identify that question. What are the various components to the major jobs that we have? And what is sort of industry standards for us to respond to each of those skill crafts along that? We're not there yet, board member, but we're at a point where we've identified what the components are, And we're now in the process of the harder work of doing the planning and logistics to ensure that that gets done. So that, and just as an example, there could very well be a carpenter trade that's needed within a plumber and electrician. If that plumber isn't scheduled till 6 months after, between those two, then it screws up the whole sequencing of that. We're taking a better look now at how each of those that jobs requires the sequencing and making and attempting to have the skilled craft available for when one skilled trade finishes their job, so the next skilled trade can come right in. And that's one of the things I think it's sort of back when we talk about, Chair talks about the empowerment at the resident management level. This is one of the things we're looking to try to get as many skilled trades at the command at the resident level, so that sequencing isn't a centralized effort, but one that can be done more decentralized.
The other thing you're saying is the skilled trades is not under the jurisdiction of the managers.
Right, that's one of the
They
things.
have no control over them, so to speak. So they come into the development and you can't guide them or instruct them in any manner. They just do what they do and come and go.
That's one of the issues that we're tackling right now, particularly with Janet's doing, working with the OpMom right now to get a better dovetail between what the observations and the needs of the property manager are versus the needs of the skilled trade superintendents. We're not there yet, Board Member.
Okay.
Could I just add on to that, with the skilled trades, a lot of times when they do the work, because of the leaky roofs that we have throughout the 5 boroughs, they have to come back and do that same work over and over again.
Right.
So until we fix the top part,
Right.
and even though you have residents that are calling in for repairs, these repairs have to be done over and over and again because the problem is coming from the roof. And until, we settle that, they'll come in and do the work. I agree with B that, they do the skilled trades have their own whatever, as to when they start a work job. But I've heard complaints that say when they do it, you call back 6 months later or whatever, maybe even sooner than that, and it's the same problem.
Right. One of the things that we're doing now, and I was going to talk about it later when under the slide under customer satisfaction, but we've established a quality assurance unit. And what the early benefits of that is that we're actually getting to the point where we can identify when a maintenance or skilled trade worker says they've completed a job, and they could very well have completed the job, but that the job isn't complete because it returns. It's getting to the idea of root causes, and I think we're now looking and tracking those activities that we have a lot of repeats at. And now moving past and now recognizing that this is something that's going to require additional resources up to capital to repair whatever the root cause is, so that we're not in a situation where the resident needs to call back every couple of months because something is leaking. In terms of our mold and mildew, that was one of the specific initiatives that we're working at. But it actually that same attempt is being utilized at all of our crafts and all of our maintenance activities. On apartment turnaround time, this particular indicator talks about coordination. So it's not just the repair work. You think, what's it take the time for a maintenance team to come in to do the repairs to bring a vacant apartment back online? It also talks about coordinating with the management office and the marketing folks, so that this is really a kind of a cradle to grave. This looks at the time it takes from a apartment being vacated to the time that another resident is in the apartment. So one of the things I think that we have done a better job at is coordinating those two efforts, so that the property managers have a better handle of when repairs are going to be made, and that we're in a better situation of marketing that apartment to a resident that needs it. On the customer satisfaction, the couple things to note on this is that one, in February was a computer glitch basically to the customer contact center. That's why we did not make as many calls as we normally do, and that was really based on a computer glitch at the customer contact center. What the March numbers show, though, it sort of again shows the consistency with the amount of calls that we are putting out and the type of responses that we're getting. We continue to have a little bit of an increase on this. And I think one of the things that this is being corroborated with is our quality assurance unit, which I mentioned a moment ago, is now going into apartments, knocking on doors and asking and saying into the resident, can we come in because, you know, a worker was just there. The worker says they completed a repair without even asking about the satisfaction from the resident. They go in, take a look at the work, take a photograph of it, decide if was it good or bad. And that's now, we're finding out that is now tracking at a higher rate than it has been in the past as well. So we're looking at those as two types of indicators around customer service. One, where we are making calls on a random basis to our residents asking about what the experience was like, but it's now being backed up with a quality assurance unit that's really knocking on doors and actually seeing what the quality of the work was that's being done. And that board completes the report of the general manager for the month of March.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for sending this out in advance, because it's helpful to look at it before the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, we may now proceed with our regular calendar. Item number 1.
Multiple glasses on, so I have to make sure I'm looking
So on
at
your
the right
head,
one.
here, good morning.
So good morning, Chair Olatoye, members of the board, General
Good
Manager
morning.
Kelly. I'm sorry?
Good morning.
Oh, good morning, sorry. I'm just like so intense. See, I have my reading, so I can't, I think I could hear, but yeah, okay.
Sorry.
You're throwing me off. I was like, wait, are they talking to me? Okay. This resolution is to seek authorization to submit 1, an amendment to the authority's fiscal year 2016 annual public housing agency plan to include the disposition of parcels of land at Holmes Towers in Manhattan and Wyckoff Gardens in Brooklyn for the Next Gen Neighborhoods program. 2, to submit the fiscal year 2016 capital fund annual statement and 5-year capital plan. And 3, to submit the PHA certifications of compliance with the PHA plans and related regulations to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in accordance with Section 511 of the Quality Housing and Work Responsibility Act of 1998. The PHA plan provides details about the authority's current programs and the resident population served, as well as NYCHA's strategy for addressing the housing needs of the currently assisted families and the larger community. The amendment, board resolution, and signed certifications will be hand-delivered to HUD's field office by next week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item number 2, Mr. McCormick.
Good morning. John McCormick, Vice President of Real Estate Services. Item number 2 seeks authorization to amend the agreement with the New York State Industries for the Disabled for janitorial, cleaning, and pest control services at the authority's Long Island City facility, which agreement was authorized by board resolution on December 7th, 2011, for an initial 3-year term with 2 1-year renewal options. The amendment request is to increase the not-to-exceed contract amount by $538,432.45 in order to fund the remainder of the second 1-year renewal option, which commenced on March 27th, 2016, and continues through March 26th, 2017.
Okay, questions? Great, thank you.
Morning, Board. Michael Rosen, Acting Executive Vice President for Capital Projects and Vice President for Disaster Recovery. I'll be presenting items 3 through 21. Item number 3, request award for a requirements contract for grounds and Section 504 accessibility at various developments citywide to Empire Control Abatement Incorporated in the amount of $10 million. CPD is issuing several requirements contracts as part of a comprehensive plan to address grounds improvement at various developments citywide. These requirements contracts are funded by city capital grants. As such, they are designated with a predefined budget. This is a requirements contract for various developments citywide. The scope of work includes, but is not limited to, removal and replacement of various pavements and curbs, installation of new play equipment, safety surfacing, steel bar fencing, site furnishings, lighting, spray showers, ramps, entrances, and renovations to basketball courts. The term of the contract is 3 years with a 1-year renewal. Empire Control Abatement Incorporated is a woman-owned business that has been in operation since 1988. It is their first contract with NYCHA. However, they have performed various work at government agencies such as Department of Parks and Recreation, New York City, Department of Design and Construction, and the Dormitory Authority, State of New York. Reference checks were performed on their past work and found satisfactory. They understand the scope of the work and have the capacity needed to perform this work. That's it. Item number 4, request authorization to enter into a contract for exterior renovation, restoration at various sites, various developments, and these are site-specific developments, to Neelam Construction Corporation in the amount of $17,624,688.66. The scope of this requirements contract is for the exterior restoration at 39 buildings at various developments, which were identified through the New York City Department of Buildings Local Law 11 Cycle 7 and 8 inspections. In addition, this requirement contract is designed to address emergency conditions and provide for public protection citywide should the need arise. The scope of this work includes, but is not limited to, exterior restoration of facades, minor roof repairs, sidewalk sheds, asbestos abatement, energy and emergency repairs. The term of this contract is 480 days. Neelam is a minority-owned business that has been in operation since 1989. They performed 4 projects for NYCHA as prime contractor, valued at over $68.9 million, and 2 projects as subcontractor, valued at over $13.2 million. Their overall performance has been satisfactory. They understand the scope of this work and have the capacity to perform it.
I just want to say that I'm happy to hear when it's a woman-owned business and a minority-owned business. So I look through the notes and I look for that. So that's a good thing. Also, they have 5 Section 3 hires. We follow up to make sure that they actually hire and the residents, hopefully.
Yes.
Okay.
So I thank you for mentioning that. CPD, along with our procurement department, is working very hard on attracting minority and women-owned businesses. We recently had a job fair at BMY Mellon that was very well attended. So even though we are doing well in that aspect, we continue to push it and want to do even better.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 5 seeks authorization to award a contract for the closure of petroleum products storage tank systems at various developments citywide to Gemstar Construction Corporation in the amount of $10,363,100. They were the 3rd lowest bidder. The first lowest bidder, AB Boiler Company, came in with the amount of $9.5 million, and the second lowest bidder was Gramercy Incorporated in the amount of $9.8 million. Neither one of those had the required certificates and were deemed non-responsive. So the 3rd lowest bidder was Gemstar. As part of the Sandy resolution measures, this requirement contract will address the removal of underground oil storage tanks that will impede the construction of the permanent boiler projects at 13 developments in the Sandy portfolio. Gemstar Corporation has been in operation since 1991. This is their first contract with NYCHA. A reference check on past work with various city agencies was conducted and found satisfactory. This includes similar projects for the New York City Department of Transportation, Department of Design and Construction, and the New York State Office of General Services. Gemstar understands the scope of work and has the capacity to complete this work. Items number 6 through 9 request the award of 4 job contracts for various developments citywide. As part of capital projects, comprehensive plan to address the ongoing development construction needs, CPD has competitively bid several job contracts. These job order contracts or job contracts. These contracts were designated by trade based on geographic region. The sites are not predetermined and construction work will be performed on an as-needed basis. The contract is competitively bid. Their adjustment factor based on the pre-established prices in the job order construction task catalog. The scope of work includes but is not limited to roofing, removal and replacement in kind, and general construction, including carpentry, concrete, and masonry. The ability of the authority to have multiple contractors available to perform this work is essential to the efficient and safe operation of the authority's developments, as well as to meet the milestones for completing work that we have set. However, as outlined in the notice to bidders, a contractor can bid on more than one job order contract in this series. As such, a bidder may be awarded more than one contract if the authority, based on the results and the capacity of the bidder, determines it is in the best interest of the authority to do so. The item number 6 requests authorization to award a contract in the amount of $10 million to Gemco Electrical Contractors. This is for general construction. Item number 7 requests authorization to award a second contract to Gemco Electrical Contractors, also a general construction contract. The first contract is for Bronx and Queens. The second contract is for Manhattan. Item number 8 requests authorization to award a contract in the amount of $10 million to Bouillon Construction Corporation. This is for general construction in Brooklyn and Staten Island. And item number 9 requests an award, authorization to award a contract for $15 million to APS Contractors. This is for roofing, and it's for Brooklyn and Staten Island. All contractors' references and the request to award to these vendors is based on all the past performance for NYCHA as well as contractors' reference verifications. We found all 4 to be responsible and possess the necessary experience to successfully perform the work that's required. The VNC for each vendor was requested and is pending. These job order contracts will not be awarded until the VNCs are cleared, and all vendors have acknowledged the Section 3 requirements and their understanding as well as a proposed methodology for compliance. The contractor's participation will be based on the assignment of a job order to the contractor coupled with the value of that job order. So while there are no current projected Section 3 hires, that is only because no job orders have been written. The Section 3 language will be included in each job order, and successful contractors will be tracked with regard to their Section 3 compliance.
Michael, so number 9, APS contractors, so this is for roofing. Is this roof replacement or is this patching and?
They can do both.
They can do both. So is this city cap money here or is this?
This is,
Says it's mixed. I just want to understand where we're doing our roof replacement campaign as part of the mayor's 300 million.
I have to double check. I don't know if this is city cap funded. I don't believe it is.
Okay.
But
So that would make me think that it's just patching, not wholesale replacement, which is what we're doing with the city.
well, we can assign a full roof to them. It's part of the job order contract lists all the different scopes of work, which would include a full roof,
Okay.
and there would be pricing there for a full roof replacement.
Within this,
Yes, it gives us the flexibility to do either.
I'd like to know, because if it's helping to augment our roof program so that we can do roofs faster, it would be great. Or if it's, sort of outside of that work stream, that would be helpful.
Sure. Item number 10 through 12, request authorization to reject 3 job contracts for various developments citywide. The scope of these contracts included hazardous material removal and additional contracts for roofing. The reason for rejecting these is that the bid factor proposals ranged from 1.39 to 2.39. The proposer's bid factors were evaluated against the estimate bid factor of 1.21. As such, it was determined that the proposer's bid factors were excessive for this type of work. CPD is requesting to reject the bids for 3 job contracts. Item number 10 is to New York Environmental Systems in the amount of $10 million. Item number 11 was to New York Environmental Systems also for the amount of $10 million. In that case, they were the sole bidder on that contract. And item number 12 is to East Coast USA Construction in the amount of $15 million. All of these contracts, we have additional contracts in place, so by rejecting these contracts, it will not be delaying any work. We will do some more outreach and come back with job contracts like this in the future.
Could you explain, you said it won't impede the work, so how would we go about doing that?
So we already have, previous board, in the previous board meetings, we've come with the same type of job contracts. Our goal is to have a number of these contracts in place, so we have the capacity to do more work when needed, and we can use the contractors that we feel are the best based on their performance. So the additional job contracts that give us more flexibility in the future, but we have contracts in place to perform the work that is needed right now. Item number 13, request rejection of a contract for replacement of interior stairs at Robinson houses. The proposed work for this project is for the replacement of interior stairs. The scope included, but is not limited to, removal and replacement of existing stair flights, steel rises, concrete masonry, and handrails. 8 packages were distributed. We received 1 bid. The contract bid opening was held on February 29th. Biltmore General Contractors submitted a bid of $4,057,591, which was 123% higher than NYCHA's cost estimate of $1.8 million. A post-bid meeting was held to determine the cause for the large variance, which concluded that several of the items in NYCHA's estimate were underestimated. Therefore, the estimate will be revised and the scope of work will be rebid accordingly. We will take advantage of this time as we're putting together the new package to reach out to the 7 contractors that elected not to bid on this project and find out what their concerns were, and hopefully put the package together in a way that it will attract more bidders.
Natural question is, what's happening in the interim at Robinson with their stairs?
So we're working with technical services and operations. They've made temporary repairs. They continue to make temporary repairs to those stairs. It is imperative that we replace the staircase as quickly as possible. But in the meantime, operations is doing what they need to do to keep the stairs safe.
We've done the cost estimate of the cost benefit of internal versus external.
Yes.
And it's cheaper external.
Well, we don't have the capacity to do the full replacement that's needed. So the repairs, it's effective to do the repairs internally. However, the replacement has to be done externally.
My question was, what were you gonna do differently to attract new bidders? But you said you're gonna go back to the ones who did not.
Yeah, so part of that, and I believe this has already started, but the part of that will be to find out, what about this project scared you off? Why did you were interested enough to come take the package, but you didn't bid on this project? Why? And if there's something that we learn from that we can change, we're always trying to do that. Item number 14, request the rejection of a grounds improvement contract at various developments in Brooklyn, Bronx, and Queens. This contract bid opening was held in February 11th, 2016. 19 bid packages were distributed. 2 proposals were received. The lowest bidder, S&N Builders, submitted a bid proposal with a factor of 1.375, which was 37.5% higher than our budgeted bid factor of 1.0. whereby limiting the number of developments that would have been addressed by this plan. S&N's bid proposal was deemed excessive for this type of work. We're reviewing alternative methods to perform this work within budget. Item number 15, requests authorization for a change order at Harlem River Houses for major renovations to Rockmore Contracting Incorporated in the amount of $934,169.28. The scope of work includes parapet replacement, roof replacement, concrete spandrel beam repairs, facade repairs, lintel and window caulk replacement, asbestos abatement, and mold remediation. This contract also provides for the complete interior renovation of 42 vacant apartments and 70 water-damaged occupied apartments. Since the award of this contract, 3 additional vacant apartments were added to the original scope of work, now totaling 45. In addition, once construction commenced on in the occupied apartments, it was determined that additional quantities of various items were needed. As a result, a change order is required for the cost of the additional units and the additional quantities in the occupied units. This change order was priced using the favorable unit prices established in the original contract. The contract will be extended for an additional 6 months in order to perform this work, and the projected completion date is December 31st of this year.
Excuse me, has this work already started?
Yes. Item number 17, request authorization for a change order to the temporary boiler contract at various developments in Brooklyn to Cordoon Construction Corp. in the amount of $6,296,688.
That's item 16.
Yeah, 16.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
17.
I apologize. Item number 16, request authorization to the temp boiler contract. I clearly want to finish this. I'm sorry.
You don't love going through all of these items?
Oh, my goodness.
16 and 17 are the same contract for different things.
Yes,
That's
but
why.
they are different though.
It's a different one.
So again, item number 16, request authorization for a change order to the temporary boiler contract at various developments in Brooklyn to Cordoon Construction Corporation in the amount of $6,296,688. The scope of this contract provided for the replacement of oil boilers to temporary natural gas boilers, and it also includes the rental and maintenance costs of said boilers. The contract is scheduled to expire on 7/16/2016. As part of this contract, the lease agreement for each of the temporary boilers is 2 years. However, the permanent replacement of the boilers is not anticipated to be online for 18 months or more. To that end, this change order to Cordoon's requirement contract for the continuation of the lease and maintenance of all temporary boilers is requested for an additional 24 months to run through July 15th, 2018. Item number 17, request a change order to the temporary boiler contract at various developments in Brooklyn to Cordoon Construction Corporation. This change order is to relocate the temporary boilers at Gravesend houses. As when the boilers were installed, the design for the permanent boilers was not yet complete. It was determined that the current temporary boiler location at Gravesend houses is optimal for the location of the new permanent boiler, which is a major component of the Sandy recovery scope of work. These temporary boilers must be relocated prior to the upcoming winter season to allow site preparation for the installation of the new permanent boilers. To that end, this change order to Cordoon's contract covers the cost for relocating the temporary boilers at Gravesend houses. I want to just mention that this includes the dismantling and then installation of over 60 feet of elevated pipe runs, including steam pipes. It also includes the replacement of condensate tanks and pumps, which are in bad condition. So as we relocate the new boilers, we're going to replace the condensate tanks and pumps. And I should point out that this work is funded by FEMA. Item number 18 seeks a change order to the temporary boiler contracts for Cordoon at Red Hook East and West in the amount of $5,207,040. I'm sorry, $5,207,040. This, similar to item number 16, this contract is due to expire on August 10th, 2016. It was a 2-year contract. The permanent boilers will take more than 18 months or more to be online. We are requesting to extend this contract for rental and maintenance of the temporary boilers at Red Hook East and West. Item number 19 is the third of this type of contract. It requests a change order to the temp boiler contract for various developments in Queens to Marek Mechanical in the amount of $3,643,437.60. This contract is scheduled to expire on 7/23/2016. The temporary boilers will take approximately 2 years to install in Queens, and we are requesting that this change order be approved to continue with the rental and maintenance of the temporary boilers in Queens. Item number 20 requests an increase to the program management services related to Hurricane Sandy long-term repair program to CB&I Engineering of New York, formerly Shaw. This contract provides for the planning, scheduling, scoping, prioritizing, and other needed requirement efforts in the Sandy recovery. It also includes oversight of the design, award of contracts, construction oversight, compliance, in grant management, compliance and closeout, as well as project closeout. The additional funds requested to this agreement represent approximately 178,355 man-hours. This funding is estimated to continue CB&I's efforts through March 14th, 2017, and will be funded through FEMA insurance and/or CBDG DR grants. As such, we are requesting an authorization to amend CB&I's agreement. That's all. Item number 21, request authorization for the authority to submit to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, the authority's proposed energy performance contract for approval, and upon HUD's approval of the EPC, to enter into an agreement, an energy services agreement with Amoresco Incorporated in connection with implementing the energy performance contract. Previously, the board approved an award to Amoresco to provide investment-grade energy audits at 80 developments. On February 29th, the first phase was completed. 26 developments are included in this, and the audit report recommended for a total construction cost not to exceed $56 million. The EPC consists of the financing and implementation of energy conservation measures, such as apartment and public space lighting retrofits, apartment temperature sensors, boiler plant upgrades, ancillary heating system upgrades at subject developments, which will all require HUD's review and approval. The financing portion for this EPC in conjunction with this board item will be presented separately by NYCHA's finance department in board item number 22. The scope of this work includes all the aforementioned energy conservation measures, as well as the boiler plant replacement at Whitman houses. Again, this covers 26 developments. It covers the actual work at the 26 developments. This upgrade and retrofit of NYCHA buildings will reduce greenhouse gases and generate millions of dollars in cost savings. Post-implementation, it's anticipated that in the first year, it will generate approximately $4 million in savings. Typically, NYCHA would submit the proposed EPC to HUD for review and approval, then seek the board approval prior entering into the energy services agreement and implementing the EPC. However, given the need to move expeditiously to undertake this EPC, to be in line with the mayor's initiative for One City Built to Last, as well as NYCHA's aggressive next generation sustainability agenda, CPD seeks the board authorization prior to HUD's approval. This will streamline the process by entering into the emergency services agreement with Amoresco immediately following HUD's approval to implement the EPC. NYCHA's agreement with Amoresco will not be signed until HUD has approved, until the HUD approval is obtained.
So if Julian Castro comes to New York City and he does a press release with the mayor, that to me sounds like we have their approval already. And now we have to give them something back to get the approval. Is that we have to tell them the contractors we're going to be using?
So this is the process. We anticipate the approval will come, but the process is that it has to be submitted and then formally approved.
Oh,
I just want to correct, you said emergency, I think you meant energy services.
I did.
contracting.
I'm sorry.
okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
So, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Karen Caldwell, the Chief Financial Officer, and I am presenting item number 22. Item number 22 requests authorization to enter into an agreement with Bank of America Public Capital Corp. To obtain up to $56 million in general obligation financing for a total debt service amount not to exceed $83,820,104.72. Perform or install energy conservation measures pursuant to the energy performance contract to be submitted for approval to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development as referenced in the previous board resolution 21. Commencing on July 15, 2016 and continuing through July 14, 2036. The financing will be in the form of a lease purchase agreement and will be issued on a tax-exempt basis once all of the terms and conditions are met. This lease purchase agreement will finance a proposed energy performance contract with a project cost not to exceed $56 million. The proceeds of this lease purchase agreement will be used to upgrade common areas and apartment lighting at 26 of the authority's developments. In addition, the proceeds will be used to replace a boiler plant and a heating system upgrade at one development. The term of the financing agreement is 20 years, inclusive of the construction period of 30 months. The total debt service, which includes principal and interest, is not to exceed $83,820,104.72. The effective interest rate is not to exceed 3.63%, and the anticipated closing date is, again, July 15, 2016. The financing proposals evaluated were procured via RFP, which was released on February 24, 2016. While 14 financial institutions were pre-screened and invited to submit proposals, only 6 potential bidders attended our proposals conference, and 2 successful financing proposals were submitted to the authority on or before the deadline date of March 30th, 2016. The RFP included 27 questions in 4 broad categories, including the financial approach, proposed financing and fee proposal, qualifications, references, comparable financing and funding capacity, and the financial condition of the institution that proposed. The proposals were reviewed by an evaluation committee comprised of 7 individuals from 6 departments. Bank of America Capital Corporation unanimously scored the highest among every committee member in each of the 4 broad categories. and is therefore recommended to finance the EPC in an amount not to exceed $56 million. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. I'm sorry, good morning, board members. My name is Brian Clark. I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations for Property Management. I have the pleasure of presenting the last item on the calendar today. Authorization is requested to approve an increase to the not to exceed amount of this requirement contract with ISI NY Corporation for bulk garbage carting services by 50% as permitted by the original requirement contract, which did not require initial board approval for an initial 2-year term with 1-year renewal option in order to fund the continued provision of services during the remainder of the initial 2-year term, which commenced on June 19th, 2014, and is continuing through June 18th, 2016. We use this contract to support our waste management services. It's for the contractor provides us the use of a 30-yard dumpster and also provides carting services to transport to a transfer station, in this case in Brooklyn. The Department of Sanitation provides us with a disposal ticket, which is creatively called a dump ticket, that covers the disposal fees associated with the garbage. This is not food waste. It is typically large items such as furniture and mattresses that go in these containers. And I'm open to any questions that you may have regarding this.
We had a robust conversation at some point about this issue, and I've certainly heard about it from residents. Is there any way in which we can dispatch this contractor to the sites where we know we either have historically had a lot of bulk or we're getting reports of a lot of bulk, or is it simply whatever?
No, it's as needed. I mean, we get approximately 1,100 dump tickets, a month from DOS, and we can only, as long as we're timely in our request, we can get additional dump tickets. The contractor has to respond within 48 hours of our request. Chair, you'll recall, I think it was about 5 weeks ago, we met with management and we got feedback regarding the bulk carting contract services. This item is actually on the last calendar, so we actually withdrew it because of those concerns. Met with the vendor and also with staff to go over whatever issues that we had. We found that the issues were not significant to prevent us from doing services with the contractor. It's about us timely requesting the additional dump tickets when we need it.
It's not the contractor and the dumpsters that's the problem. The problem is management. If the manager knows that his garbage is excessive, they ought to be putting in for more tickets. And if they're recalcitrant in putting in those tickets, the garbage is going to be all over the place.
Yeah.
So your managers have to know how to request those additional tickets as needed when they need them.
Yeah, and particularly this time of year is,
tax season,
yeah.
People are getting earned income tax money. They're buying new furniture, TVs, mattresses, everything is all out on the street. That's when you need the extra dump tickets to be called in.
Yeah, and also our recycling program, should help us in the future, help reduce the requirements of this.
The recycling doesn't go into those.
No,
dumpsters.
but it can. Yeah, but it can. Like there are recyclable materials that we can help that can help reduce the use of the bulk carting.
I think Ms. Bird's point, I think, is a good one. It's just, our managers need to be a bit more in tune with the cycles of bulk trash.
So let me just ask a question, excuse me, Madam Chair. When the manager does put in a request for it and they still don't get the answer when they have this bulk garbage, I'm not talking about, like you say, regular garbage where, food disposal. Because at some sites they have put in and they still haven't gotten the extra stuff.
The extra tickets.
Yeah,
right.
And there's always for in this particular area, I was assured that when the contractor is requested, the contractor is responding. Each development, it could be a case-by-case basis. Some of it could be due to management. Some of it could be, timing, associated with it. And I also know that we have challenges in some areas with illegal dumping, and we are working with sanitation as well with folks that are, going into our compounds and illegally, putting items in there as
And we
as
do
well.
have a
Let
lot
me
of
use COVID.
problems with that, where people come from other places and dump their garbage, there, and then we have the problem of trying to
Yeah.
get rid of this or whatever, and when the manager does put in the tickets, as I said before, it doesn't, come as swiftly as it should, so then you got all of this garbage that's continuously being piled up, and that's not good, and with the weather getting ready to get warm, we really need to address this issue.
Yeah.
In a more,
We did invest in a few locations where we actually have bulk crushers that actually will, they will actually crush the actual bulk items. So it makes it more efficient, less trips, as well, but that's a capital commitment expenditure.
so what are we gonna do about it?
Well, the thing is that, we have to be vigilant, it's as far as, requesting, timely requesting, not only the services of the bulk carters, but also for additional dump tickets. And we reinforce that with our management staff.
Okay. You notice that Miss Lewis and I have become expertise on garbage dumping.
No, I mean, there's no question, waste management is certainly a challenge, for the agency. Recycling is one piece of it. Some of the challenges are also, our buildings, they were designed for incineration, and we've converted to compactors, but the openings for the compactors are, it's challenging for folks. So I know that Melanie Hart and I are going to be meeting, within the next couple of weeks to kind of sit down and see how we can, collectively work with our residents, work with our staff to actually, improve the way that we manage waste out at our developments. But it certainly is a challenge.
One more thought. The residents who are disposing of bulk garbage need to know that your sofas and your futons do not go in the front of the building.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
Education
Yeah.
for your residents also to know what is proper disposal of bulk items. Household garbage is not to be put in front of the building.
Yeah.
Recycling should be put in recycling bins. They just don't know where to put things in the appropriate places.
Yes, I think set schedules and designated areas for bulk, I think certainly can be helpful.
Miss Spirit, it's not that they don't know, a lot of them,
They don't
it's
want
just
to
that
know.
they're lazy, and when they come out the building and when they don't throw it out the window, it's just a thing where they don't, and with the recycling, that's gonna be a problem, and what we need, General Manager and Madam Chair, is I know that y'all have cut out the overtime, but we need for these managers to come to the meeting once a month. We're not asking for them to come every week, once a month, and to let these residents know what they're supposed to do with the recycling, with the bulk garbage and whatever. And that's not happening in a lot of developments. So I don't know how we
on that
gonna.
note, so I appreciate
Okay.
that comment. The sustainability agenda and waste management is actually a major part of that. So it is certainly resident education. It's certainly changing the way we do business, train, communicate, but there are also some infrastructure and long-term capital investments that we are going to need to make. And actually, that will be the subject of a fair amount of the resiliency money that's coming into a number of the developments as well. So a lot more to talk about. I'd like to maybe propose we'll do maybe a particular board meeting or session on sort of waste management. As staff know, I'm slightly obsessed with trash as well. So happy to talk more about that. Thank you, Mr. Clark. And I think we should go through the rest of our agenda so that we can end on time.
Madam Chair, 23 items were presented for board approval. Do I have a motion to approve all 23 items?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.